SkyFire AI. What we do at SkyFire AI is develop artificial intelligence that enables autonomous and multi-ship drone operations. Multi-ship drone operations sometimes is called swarm. We tend to stay away from swarming depending on the environment, largely because there's kind of dystopian YouTube videos about swarming. What we really think of when we're doing it is a little bit different than that. And I'll talk about that here in a moment. So what are we really doing? And I am going to put this into presentation mode. And I apologize if you only see a little bit on this. But I did want you to see
Okay.
this animation build on this. What we really think we're doing is using AI and drones to save lives. There's a hashtag AI, hashtag drones for good, AI for good. And we do it by compressing response time in emergency situations, and we do it by increasing situational awareness. So again, hopefully this may be appearing small on your screen, but what this is a screenshot of the work that we did covered by NBC News after Hurricane Helene in North Carolina back in the fall. We're actually credited with saving 13 lives during that event. We saved 9 lives from search and rescue work and 4 from delivering critical medications. And for the team, it was this incredibly powerful moment where it demonstrated what we could do, how we could do it, and the impact that we could have. Even more critically, and in some ways more powerfully for the team, through one of our key engagements with the Huntsville Police Department in January, about 7 days after we went live with the Huntsville Police Department, we saved the life of a police officer who was at midnight shift, had been attacked by a perpetrator who turned out to be an escaped convict. The drone was able to find the officer and the convict in the fight. And while the convict was going for the gun, the drone was able to redirect other ground units that arrived on the spot and within 45 seconds and save the day. It was an incredibly validating moment for the team. This is a clip from Andrew Ng's The Batch newsletter. Andrew is our lead investor. AI Fund has been our lead investor since our pre-seed round. And he wrote about us. He was very taken with the story, an example of how you could use AI to save lives. So what do we actually do? As I mentioned, it is an AI layer that is hardware agnostic, a command and control layer that layers over top of any kind of drone and enables that drone to fly without a pilot. And then potentially in a swarming situation, if the situation calls for that. So the key element here is an agentic stack, which I'll go into a little bit more. I will say, and for what it's worth, we've been using agent-based AI and stacks before agentic was a buzzword. So we really started the company around this about 2 years ago. We were very incented 2 years ago by watching what was happening in the war in Ukraine. And the theory was, on the defense side, could you actually have 20 aircraft for a single pilot or no pilot at all? That would be a force multiplier that would allow the Ukrainians to stand up against the aggressors. And with respect to public safety, could you use a drone as a force multiplier for departments where you saw the level of law enforcement maybe being negatively impacted post-COVID? You saw churn with hiring and about a 30% understaffing across the police forces of the United States. The answer, we believed, was yes at the time, and we think we have pretty good evidence to demonstrate that. A little bit about what we've managed to accomplish as a company. First and foremost, the global TAM here is enormous. It's a $50 billion TAM across the categories in which we operate. We are anticipating 100% CAGR, but I'll say it'll be at least 350% this year. It'll probably even be more than that. So we are projecting 3.4 million for 2025, and that's up from 1 million last year. We are actually at a run rate of 3.7 right now. So we're feeling pretty comfortable with the 3.4 this year. And we recently upped our forecast. That's what that $11 million in 2026 year timeframe comes from. Our clients today are by and large in the public safety category. We are beginning to make progress within the defense space. And the dark horse that we didn't necessarily see 3 years ago was the commercially adjacent category. Includes, for example, SAIC. And when I say commercially adjacent, think critical infrastructure. Think about companies that are very close to our core mission. So SAIC is actually working with the Department of the Army around providing overwatch capabilities for deployed battalions, companies, grade and platoon grade formations, and we would provide that capability via SAIC as a subcontractor. Darley is the world's largest fire engine manufacturer, family-owned business, and they're looking at the concept of having a drone for every one of the fire engines eventually that they sell and then ultimately are deployed in the field. And CVS Health is really our big one. I'll show you this quick graphic here. This is one of our hardware partners that we work with, fitted with a defibrillator that we've put on the drone. That drone with the defibrillator within one of our jurisdictions can arrive on site within 2.5 to 4 minutes. If someone's having a heart attack, that gets you within the critical time frame and much faster than an ambulance in every area where we're deployed. So CVS ultimately believes that they can leverage this capability as well as avoid specialty drug logistics costs leveraging us in addition to doing a variety of other tasks. Ultimately, they see 3 of our drones deployed across 9,000 rooftops, reaching 85% of the US population within 6 years. Would be an enormously large program for us. A little bit about the team. We are almost all from national defense or public safety or EMS fire department type backgrounds. I myself was a Navy flight officer, and I come from 3 generations of public safety and law enforcement. So think about what happened with the officer in Huntsville. That rings pretty true to me personally and was an incredibly moving moment for me and my family as well as for the company. Eric Malwar, my co-founder, CIA clandestine service for 12 years before becoming an entrepreneur. Brian Davidson came from DARPA, where he was for the last 3, he was 17 years at DARPA, the last 3 of which he ran machine learning. And Matt Sloan created the UAS UAV program for CNN before taking it out and serving clients, including as an independent contractor, the first police department to ever adopt drones. I'm not going to read through the entire list here. Andrew Ang, I've mentioned him before. He's actually been pretty involved in helping us from a technology perspective. Mike Rogers is worth pointing out. Mike ran the UAS UAV program at the FBI. So collectively, we really have a lot of talent in the space that focuses on how to bring drones and drone capability out to broader swaths on a public safety basis. In the interest of time, I'm happy to go deeper into the technology during the Q&A session, but you see here an example of how we absorb data, for example, from a 911 call. We use an agentic platform in order to be able to load machine learning models onto the drones in real time, launch them, conduct the mission, and return to base. And you can see this was just an example of how swarms can be useful in search and rescue. This is an example of the telemetry and display that a watch commander, for example, would look at. And we like to highlight the fact that our technology is the same whether you're using it in a, for example, police active shooter response situation, or it's dual use. You can use it in a military situation as well. Again, competitive differentiation, happy to talk about that more in the interest of time during a Q&A session. I talked about our financials. We called up next year, 2026, kind of rule of 3 through 2026 from a SaaS basis, and then slow in a little bit as we move into the out years. But again, tremendous growth and a lot of tailwinds in the space. We are raising $4 to $5 million. It's a $16 million cap, post money safe with a 20% discount. We did raise $1 million in March of 23 and $1 million in September of 24. AI Fund has led all of our rounds, and the use of proceeds is all technology focused, R&D on the technology side in particular, in addition to current build, as well as sales. We actually hired our very first salesperson on March 1st. So he's still kind of up to speed. He hasn't sold a thing yet. So everything you've seen sold so far has been inbound and founder-driven sales. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Somebody's keeping track of his time. So thanks for doing that. Right down to 30 seconds. So I know Dimitri's got some questions. So where Where is Natalia or hey, Cheyenne? Hand out the microphone. As soon as I saw patents, I knew Dimitri would have questions.
Don, thank you for your presentation. You have mentioned material you provided before that you have 3 patent applications.
3 other applications.
Do you have 3 patent applications or how many?
We've got 1 filed and 3 patent applications coming.
And the one you filed, is it assigned in the company?
I'm sorry, you said
Is it assigned in your company name?
yes.
I could not find it. Did you find it recently?
No, but we had a stealth name which we were operating under. It's probably filed under that Myriad Technologies Corp. But I can, if it's of interest, I'm happy to upload the provisional patent into the data room.
Wait, is it a provisional application or a non-provisional?
It is currently provisional, right? We filed the patent, we got provisional status. That's where it's sitting right now.
Okay. Can you please, would you mind sending it to Jeff, both the specification and the claims?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Ding Sheng has questions. All of our patent and super technical people are asking questions.
Thanks for the presentation. I think during your presentation, you mentioned that your main product is that AI layer that interfaces with the hardware of the drone. But I'm curious, like, is the hardware part of your product itself, or is it like, the public safety officer, they already have procured the drone and then you just install the software? Is that more like it?
So yeah, look, I'll use an example. We literally just closed our largest client, or our largest public safety client last week. It's City of Birmingham. It actually just hit the news in the last 24 hours. That program is a perfect example. We will guide them to the purchase of hardware. We will choose one of our hardware partners that has hardware we think is appropriate to that mission. Our software layers over top to sell hardware, drone hardware specifically, to the federal government. You need to be on something called a blue list, which you may be aware of. The blue list requires that you have a standard API that can be accessed by companies like us. And one of the things that we're watching happen this year is this bifurcation between hardware and software. Increasingly, there are companies that just do one or just do the other. And that's driven by a number of factors, but it looks a lot like the IoT business did about 5 years ago. So we believe the economics are principally in the software. We can work across any blue list drone program. We can also work across some that are not on the blue list. For anything made out of China, like DJI is not on the blue list, for example, and ineligible for that. We can also work across their API. I will also add that there's one company that we work very, very closely with that manufactures drones. It was a spin out from Boeing, and it's just coming out of stealth mode now. They're called SkyFire, and we actually can build our hardware directly on their processor. That doesn't really add a whole lot of value technologically, but it does create an opportunity. It may add some value at the large swarm level. We're not sure yet. We don't operate yet at the large swarm level. By the way, that's defined as anything north of 25 drones. But it certainly operates at a 25 or less. There's not really an edge technologically for being on the processor versus the API. But what we are able to do is almost serve as a program manager and sometimes design some of the drones to be bespoke to the mission needs of the client we're serving.
Okay, and a very, very quick follow-up on this one. So it seems like because you're running some AI software on your drone, I guess there will be some need for outfitting the drone with some kind of like edge computing capability. So is that part of your product, or is that also from the blue list?
The most drones that you would use for a public safety application like this, they're about $30,000 to $35,000. Most of them have a processor sufficient to be able to load with the kind of models that we put on it. We can load 10 to 12 models for a particular mission. And you just can't put, for example, like in Birmingham, we imagine that we'll ultimately have upwards of 300 to 350 models in our library for Birmingham, but you can't load anywhere near that many onto the processor at any given time. We do not build the processor. What we have looked at doing from an R&D perspective, however, is basically, if necessary, and I don't know yet how necessary this would be, but being able to put the capability on a stick and being able to, put the stick in a port on the drone. Not every drone has that capability, but some do.
Okay, Madeline's got a question, then over to Darwin.
I have a follow-up question. So you showed your pricing at 600,000 per hub.
Correct.
What is a hub? And also what does that 600,000 entail? It sounds like you're helping buy hardware and there's customization involved. Can you speak to your pricing model and what each contract variance looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. The 600,000, so first and foremost, a hub is 16 square acres, and that's defined by the range of most drones that are commercially available on the market today. In other words, the ability to get out, fly a mission, return to base, all within the battery life of the drone, including time on station. The $600,000 covers 3 shifts, 24/7 operations. So as you would guess, most police departments or other public safety operations are 24/7 and they run 3 shifts. So 200,000 would be sort of per shift. If you do all 3, it's 600,000. For Birmingham, we just did 3 hubs for 1.5 million, and we gave them a discount, so it's $500,000 for 24/7 operations. That is the way the city of Birmingham, for example, or Huntsville, or any of our other clients treat it, is usually just a sort of flat fee, right? They don't differentiate between how much we're paying for or how much they're paying for services, for implementation, how much they're paying for ongoing maintenance costs, and how much they pay for the software. We do that on the back end. The calculation we typically use is the implementation cost, and this does not include any of the hardware, but the implementation cost in the first 4 months of operations is about 70% of the contract, and about 30% is allocated to software. It's about 50-50 for the second 4 months, and in the final 4 months, it's 70-30 in the other direction. 70% software subscription, and then 30% maintenance fees to keep it running. Any of the incremental elements, hardware, for example, the drones themselves, radars if it's recovered or required, ADS-B transmitters, which may be required, and anything else that's ancillary to that, that gets paid for separately by the client. So the 1.5 million for Birmingham does not include the hardware cost. The hardware cost is above and beyond. And with respect to that, we will charge about a 15% upcharge for anything that we sell that way. We don't book the full amount. We just book the 15%, so that drops to our bottom line.
Darwin.
Sorry, I kind of have 3 questions. The first one is, are you limited to U.S. manufactured drones only? Because that's about 2% of the global manufactured drones or less. Is that a limitation? If not, what limits you from integrating with foreign made? Let's leave DJI aside, just other countries' drones. Secondly, is each one of these model or manufacturer an integration effort on your part for the software to work with said mission, said model, said situation? And then thirdly, who is your sales guy calling to scale?
I think I heard 4 questions there. Let me see if I got them all.
Try to limit it to 3, sorry.
That's all good. So number 1, we can work with any drone manufactured anywhere. And in fact, we work with experimentally some drones that have come out of the Ukraine theater. And we also work with a company called Parrot, which is a major drone manufacturer out of France. They also make one of the best military grade drones that are available in the world. One of the only non-Ukrainian native drone companies to not get thrown out of Ukraine from an effectiveness point of view. So that's not an issue. Almost all of the drones, because the US is one of the large markets, almost all of the drones try to focus on, if they're not Blue List compatible, they at least have a similar API structure, so it's not as much integration effort as you might think. I will challenge you on your assertion around the percentage of the drone market that is US based from a hardware manufacturer point of view. And again, as you know, we don't have a direct dog in that fight. However, there's a massive push, and the current administration is facilitating it both on the civil side as well as the military side to improve organic development, supply chain, and the rest. I don't know that I agree with you that it's 2%, but whatever it is, it should be increasing over time. Sort of irrelevant to the broader question, but I do think you're going to see from the perspective of a key push to develop more organic drone capabilities in the United States. Think of it the way the administration's put it out, and we've been part of the discussions around this through our industry lobby group and advocacy group. They think of it like shipbuilding, but it's a lot easier to remediate than shipbuilding is. You know, the United States has a crisis in military shipbuilding, as most of you are probably aware. We have a crisis in drone manufacturing as well. So again, a little bit easier to resolve on that front. With respect to how much effort does it take, it gets easier as you go, as you add new platforms and as you add new geographies and as you add new mission cases. But it is not a trivial exercise necessarily to get it created. We don't have to do a lot of really invasive stuff. Having said that, you know, it's probably a number of weeks before we can go from zero to being operational on a new drone platform. And that time compresses as we move on. And then I am so sorry. I think I forgot the final part of the question.
Who is the dude that they talk to?
Yeah.
Who's the dude they talk to? So, it's such an immature market that it is different in every case. So, for example, in CVS Health, we're literally talking to the EVP of specialty logistics. In the case of a police department, if it's the sweet spot for us is probably a city around the size of a Birmingham or South Fulton in Georgia, or Huntsville, which is to say bigger than 50 cops and not as big as 1,000 cops. And somewhere in there is a probably sweet spot in terms of department size and budgets and need. And typically there will be a designated officer. It will either be a collateral duty if it's a smaller department, or it'd be if it's a larger department, it'll be a full-time job, almost like a CIO. So the officer's job and it'll be a sworn officer almost always. Sometimes it's civilians, but by and large, it's a sworn officer. Sworn officer, will be someone with a comp sci degree and maybe a master's degree in the field, and they'll be responsible for all technology acquisition and integration into their stack. So that's who we're usually calling on to start. We also really need to talk to the chief. So that position that I just described is probably a deputy chief position. In Birmingham, as a specific example, it was exactly a deputy chief. The deputy chief has to kind of get approval from the chief, and the chief usually has to get approval from the mayor and the city council, so they're stakeholders as well.
All right, we got time for one question that Maggie will pick from the group online, and don't worry, everybody's coming back tomorrow morning to ask more questions.
So I'm going to distill this into like a 2-word answer. So on a scale of 1 to 100, how much of a pain in the ass is it dealing with FAA regulations now? And what do you think it will be in several years?
It was a 60 2 years ago. It is a 30 today, and it'll be a 10 or less within 12 months. Big change there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much, Don. Let's give Don a nice round of applause.